Hey, we have a great This Week in Pharmacy today. I have a special guest in the new studios from Pittsburgh, go Pittsburgh. And then we're going to be talking about the best over-the-counter medicine and health products from USA News and World Report. I can't wait to get into TWIRx. So let's go. It is June 6, 2025, and this is This Week in Pharmacy. I always mess that up, Sean. I always say this is This Week in Pharmacy, as it's like I keep saying the word this.
This. You got a lot of thises.
This is This Week in Pharmacy. How would you do the introduction?
I would twerk.
Exactly. That's what I wanted you to
see
say.
Me twerk? Do you have a video over here where I can twerk?
We're up here.
Is America ready to see Sean there twerk?
Twerks it out, baby. Twerks it out. Let me show everybody the sign positioning. We got the TWIRx sign up here now. We're going to figure out how to make this thing actually have real news scrolling across it that we can talk about. But Sean, you're the first guest on TWIRx, the new show.
Man, I'll tell you, there's a lot of pressure. I mean, I was nervous coming up here. I was sweating a little bit. I had to stop to pee twice on the way up here. We got a lot of issues. I was going to drink first, and then I was like,
I love having a little sip of something that TWIRx, but we didn't do it today. We're kind of
the old studio had booze. I don't see any booze right now. The old studio had booze. Right. Is that why they threw you out? Is that why you got thrown out of the old place? No booze?
The sandwich shop.
Too many. You guys get wild and crazy in the TWIRx meeting.
That's true. That is true. So look at my sign, people, behind us. This is just part of growing a live publication. I had a thunderstorm about 30 minutes ago, and this damn thing will not turn on. It's off. So my sign's broke.
I bought the thunderstorm. I think it followed me up 70 the whole way because I started, as soon as I got on 70, it started raining like a mofo, and now we're stuck here.
I'm pissed.
Lucky we get out of here. Lucky you have power at all. You have a generator. Like, what's going to happen if we run out? We'll have to reboot this.
How could it just be that sign? Because everything else is working. It's just the sign.
It's a bad sign.
It is a bad sign.
It's a bad sign. Don't say that. Day one. This is first works.
Today's episode is the state of the pharmacy nation. I couldn't have thought a better person to have talking about this. And right out of the gate, this is our hometown, Sean. And Giant Eagle says on CBS News, just released today, Giant Eagle announces second wave of Rite Aid location transitioning prescriptions. Instead of CVS getting it, I'm glad that Rite Aid. To tell you the truth, I'm glad that Giant Eagle's getting those prescriptions instead of CVS.
So, man, there's a whole ball of discussion around this whole Rite Aid blow up or implosion of the stores. I mean, I think it was inevitable, right? They've been bankrupt. This is the second time.
Yeah.
I don't think they ever got their footing after the first time. I mean, I think they tried. And I think they just ran into the perfect storm. And no offense to people that work at Rite Aid or the management there or whatever. It was, like I said, it was just a perfect storm of reimbursements stink.
Yeah.
They never really got out of their own financial trouble. A lot of competition. Nobody can compete with Amazon. And, I read somewhere that CVS now wants to do like sort of apothecary style stores.
Yeah.
Who's been doing apothecary style stores? Who has 3,000 or 20 some thousand across the country? The independents.
Yeah.
Now they're figuring it out. But they wanted those big stores on the corners, and they paid an arm and a leg for them. And now they're all, they're reaping the repercussions of that.
Of their own action.
Yeah. I mean, they wanted those big stores and big corners and spending high end for that visibility in those locations. And for pharmacy, again, that's healthcare. The problem is pharmacy is stuck in the middle between a healthcare provider and a real retail store, right? And that's it's either good or bad, I guess, right? I have my own opinions. I prefer professional style apothecary where there's pharmacy care given, not knocking the chains and their level of pharmacy care that they provide. But let's be honest, they're not set up for that. They're set up to fill scripts.
It's fast food.
And it's fast food. It is. And listen, there's plenty of people that's all they need. The problem is there's that other percentage of people, I always say the 80-20 rule. 80% of the people can kind of manage their own lives in the pharmacy world. 20% of them cannot and still need hand-holding, high-level care, home delivery, adherence packaging, whatever it takes to make them a little more, a better patient. And, you just don't get that in the, at the chains. And again, that doesn't mean chains have their role, and the chains feel 80% of the people are fine with a chain.
Yeah.
Or an Amazon online, or any sort of online prescription mail order model, right? There's room for them. There has to be room for them. But when you truly need high level care for people with specific disease states, for seniors that are, struggle with, the number of medications that they're having, and just have, too many senior moments, seniors with dementia, someone on HIV, or somebody with disease states that have multiple medications that you need to manage. That's not made for a fast food model.
True.
Right? Me taking cholesterol medicine, sure, I can handle that.
Yep.
But the average, the person that we're talking about, that independents need to focus on, even coming out of the Rite Aid deal, right? We don't necessarily want every single Rite Aid patient. I mean, some of them are, some of them are, they're lost leaders too, right? I mean, we get a ton of calls in my pharmacy about the GLP-1s. Like, sorry, we're more than that. Like, that's not what we do.
It's true.
But this is a big boom. Is it boom or boom?
It's a boom.
It's a big boom for the independents, right? I mean, because now all these patients are on the streets, and we can kind of navigate them, help them out. There's some we want. Maybe a younger family comes in, you're like, hey, I'm not the place for you, because we have a higher level of care that we're providing, and and you don't need that. You're healthy, because we know, if we fill a retail prescription, a commercial insurance prescription, we're probably gonna lose money. So we do have the ability now to really, there's a lot of good patients on the street that need our help. And if we can find those patients that need our help, it's a win-win for the patient and for the pharmacy.
You learned everything that you're saying based on doing it, because your time and helping to grow the business of hometown pharmacy in the Pittsburgh region, and then of course up in Newcastle and Sharon and Ohio and things like that. You helped to grow that market. You understood what that market did. And then you transitioned to, before anybody thought of the term long-term care at home, you transitioned to a closed door, long-term care at home model, 10 years ago?
Seven now.
Okay.
And let me go back just to clarify. We did have the hometowns, but the ones in Sharon and Newcastle and stuff are not me.
Okay.
Those guys are smarter than I am. Nothing wrong with Ron and his group. They're smarter than I am.
Shout out to Ron.
Yeah, they're smarter than I am. But they're smarter than I am, because they're still in business. I couldn't stay in business in the regular retail world. It was a real battle, which is why I created the OTC at home model. Because again, in this day and age, I mean, think about the disaster that is healthcare. I mean, healthcare is, it's going to implode on itself if we don't make dramatic changes. And there's going to have to drastic, and they're going to hurt, but there's going to have to be changes. Otherwise, the whole system's just going to implode on itself. I mean, nursing homes can't stay in business. Pharmacies are going out of business. Getting old is a tough proposition nowadays in this country, and we have a lot of people getting old. I mean, boomers, I don't know the numbers. It's so many, 1 million a day, or 100,000 a day turn 65. And the problem is, for the next 10 years, maybe a couple more than 10, there's still that transition of, like the technologies that allow for benefits today are still not available or not practical to expect some of the elderly today to learn how to use them, because they never did. Think about, when you're 65 now, 20 years from now, when you're 85, you're going to know how to use the internet, because you've been using it your whole adult life anyways. But now there's that population now that's in between, that's 70 years old today, 75 years old today, 80, 85, 90, we're living much longer. There's just a lot of, they just don't have the skill set, like, to use the technology, because they never did, right? I mean, everybody can use a cell phone. My mom can use her iPhone, but she screws it up half the time, right? I mean, she calls her kids and her grandkids to fix her phone for her, because she struggles with it. She loves it, right? She's all over Facebook, and it's great. She keeps up with the kids, but next thing you know, she has some goofy, thing on her screen, and she doesn't know how to get it off.
Yep.
Well, that's fun and funny, because that's an iPhone on Facebook. But when you're in your medicine space, you don't have time for those errors, right? Those errors compound themselves and cause more problems.
Yep.
So, there's this transition where, I guess at the end of the day, you still need good pharmacy patient care. That still has to be the center of the model.
And when the pharmacy desert disease started taking over in the United States, we saw this starting to happen intensely about 3 years ago. We have covered on This Week in Pharmacy the whole subject, and once again, we're not at the bottom yet, meaning it hasn't hit its worst yet before we start building up.
Sure.
From a national perspective. Here's a headline out of San Francisco, which is about a pharmacy that's closing after 116 years, and the impact based on this reporter, Madeline Medina, reporting that it's going to impact about a 7-mile radius.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad. I mean, did you have Luke Barenbrock on? Did you ever have Luke on?
Yeah,
The talk
several
about
times.
the pharmacy desert.
Several times.
You know, that's his
He's-
real niche. He's a real hot shot in that space, man. He knows his way around it. He has a lot to say. So I'm glad you had him on. But yeah, and listen, so, you know, I'm gonna toot my own horn, but that's why ACOR has value in our community, you know, the Pittsburgh market, because we're going into those neighborhoods that are, we have reach to get into the neighborhoods that are pharmacy deserts. Maybe not even by Luke's definition, but neighborhoods where even if the, you know, so the Rite Aids are out of business and the Rite Aid was in downtown proper.
Mhm.
Well, the next option, the Giant Eagle that bought the scripts, maybe a Walmart, you know, they're just far enough away that you just can't count on the patient can't just run there to get their scripts. So what happens is, you know, and you can see this happen because it happens to everybody. Oh, I'm out of my meds, but I'm planning on going grocery shopping next week. So I'm just not going to take my meds this week, and I'll pick them up next week when I go do my grocery shopping. That's going to be the common theme throughout this. I mean, there's going to be a lot of trickle down from the Rite Aid stuff. Number one, real benefit for independents. You know, good option to find some real good patients in that mix. But, you know, what's Giant Eagle going to be like? Now, what kind of, I mean, I have a lot of good friends at Giant Eagle, and they're good pharmacists, but it's going to be a clusterfuck for a couple of months while they integrate all these new prescriptions. I mean, and then people are going to get mad and frustrated, and, you know, there's going to be a
blame it
trickle
on
down.
blame it on Giant Eagle.
Or they're going to leave and not get their prescriptions for a week or a month, or they're just going to be like, you know, hey, I'll leave it here. I'll come back and get it in a couple of days, and they're not going to take their meds. I mean, this is going to trickle down. You know, also that's going to affect the health plans because the health plans are getting scored on star measures by checking boxes for adherence and stuff. And then you're going to turn around and that's going to screw up all those things. So the trickle down is more than just, you know, a Rite Aid stocker going out of business or a Rite Aid patient needing a pharmacy.
True.
There's going to be a lot of trickle downstream stuff that we, you know, haven't even realized yet. Right now, it's kind of, you know, new. I feel bad for my friends that work for Rite Aid. I feel bad for the patients that have to find a new pharmacy, but I feel good for the independent pharmacists out there because this is a good opportunity for us to find some quality patients. You know, so this whole, you're throwing it all in the washing machine and you got to see what comes out.
Did you hear about the Pharmacy film? Pharmacy spelled H-A-R-M-A.
I did.
Okay, so the Pharmacy film is going to be documenting how effed up the pharmacies, the pharmacy industry and the PBM industry have impacted healthcare, how they've impacted, and they're going after PBM specifically. So anyway, the Pharmacy film is now out. You can watch it on YouTube.
Oh wait, I think yeah. I saw that. I saw that.
And guess what? They put it out on Amazon and they put it out on Hulu, and both of those, or Venmo or something, not Venmo, that's a payment thing, another platform, and they received notice that it was taken down because they can't verify if it's defamation or not, which is a bunch of shit. I mean, that's bullshit. Like, we know that what they're saying.
Tell them to call a pharmacy. Tell them to call their local pharmacy.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
We'll run them through. We'll validate it.
We'll validate it.
I'll show them some of my reimbursements, and they can tell me if it's real or not. I mean, listen. So yeah, I'm all about the frustrations with the PBMs. You know, they clearly have. You know, I mean, you know, they put us in not ideal situations. Just the whole system is, like I mentioned earlier, the whole system is kind of ready to implode on itself. You know, PBMs are, you know, can be pharmacies' devil. Hospitals have a devil. I mean, we got a ton of a ton of Medicaid cuts coming down the pipeline here, maybe, right?
Yep.
So, what's that look like? You know, I mean, how many patients how many of these Rite Aid patients are on Medicaid that are going to lose their coverage if these Medicaid cuts go through? Listen, I'm all about eliminating the fraud. Who isn't? You just have to be sort of surgical with how you do it, right? You want the people that need it to get it, but I don't want these lazy people that are ripping off the system to continue to do that either.
Right.
So you have to kind of be surgical with how you do that, because some people need it, right?
Sure.
I mean, I've seen people in my years as a pharmacist, I've seen tons of people come in to use a Medicaid card to get their prescription that I'm pretty confident that they had no reason to be on Medicaid.
Yeah.
So I know everything about everybody now. So I don't know what other problems they might have had, but I'm fairly confident as a, me being an adult professional who's, reasonably smart and, understands how things work. These people have no business being on Medicaid, and it's a lot of them.
Right.
It's a lot of them. But, again, how do you weed them out from the person that needs it? Good luck on that. But I hope they try, because that's what needs cleaned up, right? The sort of fraud in the system needs to be cleaned up. Less so the people that need it do need it.
So don't you think this is a true opportunity for well-positioned independent community pharmacies to really start making some strategic moves, finding some funding to buy up some of these pharmacies that are closed down? We know that there's a geographic need within the public health space, within some radius around an area that doesn't have pharmacy services anymore. I mean, right out on the Seattle Times, we're looking at a headline came out just today. Rite Aid Bartell presence in Washington shrinks as bankruptcy fire sale burns. And reason why I'm bringing this up again, it's in the same category, is it's going to affect thousands, if not millions of people. And it's going to affect their health that need pharmacy.
And this is where pharmacy is one of those like stuck in the middle things. Everybody just views us as retail, and we never really did get the respect that we get, which is why we're in the position we're in, because at one point or another in the retail pharmacy industry past, we let everybody take it away from us. And, that became, at one point, as the bigger chains got in there, then they were just looking for market share, and they would be willing to sell their drugs at loss leaders to get their people in the store. Now they realize half of the people are everybody's buying stuff at Walmart, Costco, and or Amazon. And no one's going in. I mean, I can't tell you last time I bought an OTC product in a pharmacy.
Mm-hmm.
I get it at Giant Eagle because it's close to my house and we're there a lot.
Yep.
So, then we go back to the beginning of the conversation. You got these big, huge stores and they got makeup. And who's buying makeup at Walgreens? Unless you're going to a wedding or something like that. You forgot your fucking lipstick. I never forget my lipstick. I bring it with me everywhere. But, who's buying makeup there? Not many people, right? Sure. So again, but pharmacy kind of got stuck in being like a retail. People's perception of pharmacy is we're retail. We're not a healthcare provider.
Right. And
now we're trying to spin that back a little bit, right? This is, the Rite Aid is the beginning of helping to define that, right? PPCN, CPESN, providing clinical services to patients in the community that the health plan can't reach. You can tell, the fact that the health plans are engaging, like in the state of Pennsylvania, PPCN, means that we're getting somewhere, because now they're saying, hey, pharmacists can talk to these people. They have access to these people. It's all about access. They have access to these people. Let's use them. Let's give them some money for this. Let's give them some money for that. So, there's this trickle of excitement. Hopefully maybe the Rite Aid thing might open the floodgates a little bit more, because, it's indicative of what needs to happen, better reimbursement so we can stay open, clinical engagement, because we need to keep people beyond pharmacy, beyond just retail stores. We have age. We want to keep people healthy. There's a ton of opportunity there. Like you said, or like we've said several times, the independent is nicely positioned here.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know if if an independent, if I'm going out and buying new stores yet, because there's still a lot of reimbursement issues that burn behind the scenes. I mean, Rite Aid's went out of business in large part. It's because of the reimbursement model. Not all. I mean, again, when we said they were never able to recover from their first bankruptcy, I think. But there are opportunities, but I can assure you that a lot of that lies in clinical services. These health plans still have boxes they need to check in order to, to stay a health plan. And there's, SDOH surveys. It's not all clinical. It's CMRs. It's not always education. It's some behind the scenes stuff. They need to check boxes, right? Every diabetic needs to be on a statin.
Yep.
These are all things that are like simple sort of clinical procedures that need to go on. Like at ACOR, we interview all of our patients. When we start with a patient, we sit down in their house for 20 minutes, tell them how everything works. Here's how the process works. Here's what we do. And we need, if there's boxes that we need to check, we check them right at that point. We check them at the, what in some worlds would be called the point of sale. But our point of sale is our delivery person is sitting in that patient's living room, tell them, hey, welcome to ACOR. Here's how we work. We're nicely suited to help you out. We're here if you need us. Here's what we do. Here's what we expect from you. We do that with everybody. So it's a nice, that's why that's part of the success that is ACOR.
So ACOR, way ahead of the game. You started this 7 years ago. You didn't necessarily call it long-term care at home, but that's exactly what it is. We started a new series in partnership with RX Safe and Icon, as well as Paul Shelton, kind of helped to kick it off, around the long-term care at home so that listeners could break it down into pieces. Now, this is very remedial for you because you're advanced in what you guys are doing. But don't you think that that is a major, major play and strategy move to now start not only filling out the paperwork and registering with your state reimbursement organization, CMS, that you are now a long-term care at home pharmacy, and you're gonna back it up with potential services in the remote patient monitoring, telehealth, and starting to dig down into the clinical opportunities, and then reach out to a CPSN and find out, okay, is the state registered? Is the CPSN in Pennsylvania? We know it is. That's a good example. PPCN. And now I can add that into being a long-term care at home pharmacy.
Yeah. So number one, let me just start at the beginning. Paul Shelton's the one that got me into LTC at home pharmacy 7 years ago. So he's been at it, before I was. So he's a pretty savvy guy. He knows his way around space. So I would, if he says something's going to happen there, I would tend to agree with Paul.
Did you hear this episode?
Pretty good guy. I did not.
Okay.
I did not. I didn't even know it existed. I will next time I'm at the gym, I will dial that up.
Okay.
Since I know you did one. But yeah, Paul, I always respect Paul. In fact, I keep in touch with him, once or twice a year just as a checkout. So I want to make sure that what I see happening in the space is what he sees happening in the space. Yep. Because sometimes, again, you get busy, sometimes you get bogged down with minutia, and I don't want to miss windows. And you mentioned our newest venture at ACOR is we're going to try to incorporate some CCM, chronic care management, which is in the RPM umbrella. It's kind of in the RPM umbrella, but that's our new thing. We have almost all of our patients, at least the ones that are on the Medicare side, qualify for chronic care management. Mm-hmm. And it's just another layer of services that ACOR can offer, hopefully keeping the patient benefits, the health plan benefits, or keeping people healthy, keeping them out of hospitals, keeping them out of nursing homes. There is the model is there. We just have to figure out how to make it work without breaking the system. Yeah, it's just it seems like and one big reason is all the middlemen. Everywhere has middlemen. Yeah, everywhere has middlemen. The PBMs are kind of arguably sucking the life out of pharmacy. Nursing homes, a lot of nursing homes, someone else owns their building. And then they have issues there. Rents keep going up, and the reimbursements that they're getting paid for keep going down. Yep. You can't fix the problem. All it takes is money, and I don't know how they're going to get more money. We just don't have it. Doge didn't do a good enough job, apparently, from what I see in the last couple of days.
Well, and Elon Musk is now anti-Trump.
Yeah, that's the word on the streets, man. The word on the streets is everyone's going toe to toe. I think they're going to set up a fight in Madison Square Garden for a real pay-per-view. That's what they're lining us up for. I feel like these guys are money hungry, the two of them. They're going to have a pay-per-view. Elon Musk versus Donald Trump. Listen, we should set that up. We should. Don't cancel that. Back this up and get that off the air. I don't want that out there in public yet. But I will edit it. Yeah, edit that out, because we're going to reach out to both parties and see if we can set it up. We'll say it's sponsored by Pharmacy Podcast Network.
That's right. Finally. So there's an article out for Managed Healthcare Executive, just came out today. Transparency for PBMs can't become something more than just a buzzword, by Denise Mishko. And I've read some of her articles before, and this one kind of digs into, can PBMs really change the way that they've operated based on the three worst PBMs in the history of healthcare, which is CVS Health, Express Scripts, and Cigna and OptumRx, or whatever you're saying, through United Health Group. And I've seen the rise of the transparent and fiduciary driven PBMs way back when the Fields family launched one called ApproRx way back 15 years ago. So the answer is yes to this article. Can PBMs truly become something different and be transparent? It's absolutely yes, but certainly not the three that are existing out there that are gonna hold on to the very last minute when they're forced by the FTC to break
Yes,
up.
and they'll change. I mean, look, I'm not a huge I'm a pharmacist, so by default, I'm not a huge PBM fan. But I will tell you this: I wish I invented them.
Yeah.
I wish I was the guy that started Express Scripts or Caremark.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so everybody does what they do. I mean, that's their job, is to do their job. Is it a problem for the system? Currently, it is. It absolutely is. Our reimbursements are too low. The games that get played, I don't even pretend to know the games that go on behind the scenes with rebates and all, but I know it's not pretty for everybody. But you also, there's also scenarios where sometimes the rebates aren't always going in somebody's pocket. Like sometimes a rebate goes to a health plan, and then the health plan lowers the cost of somebody's insurance.
Right.
So there's moving parts that a lot of people don't know. We're in silos, right? Everybody in healthcare is in a silo. We're in the pharmacy silo, and within the pharmacy silo, we're in another silo that is the independent pharmacy silo. And we're in that silo. It says you're effing me on my reimbursements, and I don't like it. But I'm not going to say. I mean, they are. So let me put that out front there. There's no doubt that they are. But that doesn't mean that everybody understands what happens. Healthcare is a big umbrella. We're just in our silo. We want our silo to be better for us, but we can't. We have to respect that there are other levels of the silo, right? There's the medical side of things. Just because if we can do better at managing people's drugs, do we get a corresponding reduction in the Medicare side, or not Medicare, but the medical side?
Yes.
Right. Or there are less hospital admissions, or there are less readmissions. So it all goes. But don't forget, if you want to improve the pharmacy side, drug spend goes up. Now, drug spend is cheaper than hospital spend. That much we know. But if we're going to raise the drug price, we're not raising the prices, but if we're going to make somebody take their inhaler every month, they might have only got it 10 times last year. Now they're going to get it 2 more times. Now across the country, that's millions of dollars of an increase for a health plan, right? Because now we're making everybody take their inhalers on time. We should. That's how we're going to keep them out of the hospital. But do they get that corresponding drop in hospital stuff? I don't necessarily know that we know that, because we're in our pharmacy side. We don't know what's happening on the medical side. That's why an ACO was originally kind of a good idea. It was an accountable care organization. Everybody was supposed to know what everybody was doing. We never really got there. So now nobody knows what everybody's doing. We have a new patient at ACOR. This just came up. Their physician gave us a bunch of prescriptions for some bladder pills that the urologist didn't even have them on anymore.
Oh, geez.
But we didn't, and we had to kind of track that down, because this is what we do at ACOR, right? When we first get a new patient, and we try to do a med sync, we kind of do a med rec before we do the med sync. And we kind of ferreted out that the patient wasn't on these bladder pills anymore. They didn't need them, but the PCP thought they were still on them. PCP didn't know that the urologist canceled them, because everybody's in their silo. So, that's just an example of, silos we're worried about our silo in independent pharmacy. There are other silos out there. So, and again, I'm not trying to defend anybody. I'm just trying to say you have to look at big picture stuff. You have to look at big picture stuff. You can't always zero in on what selfishly you want to zero in on what you need. But that is affected by what happens out here.
Sean, can you stick around?
Are we drinking?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have a drink, but hold on a second. I want to get into this OTC report. I want your comments on it, but I want
sponsored by Tito's?
It's actually sponsored by Eury Pharma.
Oh, Eury. Okay, that's kind of good, guys.
Yeah. All right, we will be right back with This Week in Pharmacy with our special guest, Sean Eury.
As frontline healthcare providers, pharmacists like you understand the importance of personalized care, especially in acute pain management. Ural Pharma is dedicated to providing high-quality, generic products tailored to meet your patient's needs. The company aims to serve a diverse range of patient populations, including athletes recovering from intense training, weekend warriors managing minor injuries, and those seeking a practical and mess-free option for acute pain management. Keep Ural in your toolbox of pain management options and join the ranks of pharmacists leading the way in personalized care. To learn more about Ural Pharma and its products, including full prescribing information, boxed warnings, and important safety information, visit uralpharma.com. That's YARAL pharma.com and connect with them on LinkedIn.
Hey, and on this segment of This Week in Pharmacy, I would like to welcome Shanley Chien to the show. Shanley, thank you so much for being part of This Week in Pharmacy.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right. So, U.S. News, what an interesting organization that we featured last year on This Week in Pharmacy. U.S. News, you can find it at health.usnews.com. And we are talking about the best OTC, over-the-counter medicine and health products. And these products, to find the answer, the U.S. News partnered with the Harris Poll survey, surveying 133 over-the-counter categories of health and personal care products to 357 pharmacists and 134 dermatologists. And I'm biased. I trust pharmacists more than any of the providers. They're my favorite providers. And actually see, I don't know if you knew this, Shanley, but they see patients 9 times more per year than what even physicians see them. So there's a lot of contact with patients out there. And then the over-the-counter space, I've always thought over-the-counter products are sometimes misused more than anything, because people think, well, if it's over the counter, it's not a danger. But I'm like, no, actually it can be. It can be intermixing with other things. But it's so important for you to come on once in a while, U.S. News, to share with our listeners some of these findings. So right out of the gate, I want to know, for those who may be unfamiliar, tell us about the best OTC medicine and health product rankings, at a high level. What does this launch cover?
Absolutely. So this is our 3rd annual Best OTC Medicine and Health Products rankings, and it evaluates the best of the best over-the-counter products, as you mentioned, for all your daily health needs, from things like multivitamins, cough medicine, allergy meds, and probiotic supplements to skincare products as well.
Very good. So let's get into the best OTC medicine and health products methodology. How do you work with pharmacists for this annual list?
Yeah, so as you had brought up, we partnered with the Harris Poll, and this is we're partnering with them again this year for our best OTC medicine and health products rankings, and it covers 1,100 products across 133 categories, including all the things I had mentioned, as well as so many more. And so there are so many different categories that our rankings cover, and we really lean on our experts for their experience, their expertise, their insights. And so we brought on hundreds of pharmacists, and a total of nearly 500 pharmacists and dermatologists who evaluated the safety, efficacy, and quality of each product.
That's amazing, because that's the kind of feedback that our consumers want. They want to know from the provider themselves, what does the provider have to say? My physician, my pharmacist, my nurses, what do they have to say about these products? So what is new this year?
Exactly.
What's new this year for the U.S. News ranking for best over-the-counter medicine and health products?
Absolutely. So we added 12 new product categories this year, including things like antiperspirants for men, antiperspirants for women, to things like anti-stress supplements, electrolyte powders, because they are becoming more and more popular, hand sanitizers, all the way to things like nerve pain management and weight loss supplements and whey protein powders. And you're absolutely right. For a lot of the people who are purchasing things that are over the counter, they tend to think oh yeah, these are a lot safer, but you were absolutely right. There are so many different types of drug interactions and food interactions that can happen when you're taking over the counter medication. So leaning on our pharmacists' experience and their expertise and really that wealth of knowledge that they bring to the table is so, so important for us for when we're gathering their insights, because they can really tell our readers and really provide their guidance and their insights on how to best take a lot of these over-the-counter medications. And a lot of that guidance you'll also see in the category pages that we have on our website.
All right, for the listeners, if you are driving, if you are jogging, if you're doing something, you're just this podcast, don't worry. Inside the show notes, there's going to be a link. If you're watching us on YouTube, you're going to find it at health.usnews.com/OTC over the counter. That's health.usnews.com/OTC. Shanley, you have to promise to come back to This Week in Pharmacy and take us through another list brought to us
Absolutely.
by the team at US News.
Oh, absolutely. Happy to.
Maybe we'll do a vet special and I'll have Milo, the mountain goat. He's a corgi. And then you can wake up your friend there back in the back.
She would love to.
What's your puppy?
Her name's Ashby.
Ashby.
Yeah, she would love to be on camera.
You are listening to a special feature with US News, Shanley Chien, and you've been listening to This Week in Pharmacy. We'll be right back.
And we're back with Sean Nairn.
Hey man, round two. You have to pay me for round two. You only paid me for one round.
All right, and we're looking for
If you want
sponsorships. If somebody
pay
can
me.
wire us some money for
No,
Sean's second part.
Interesting segment though. Pretty
Yeah,
cool that they're
heck yeah.
trying to do that. So I'll keep that show going if I was you.
I'm impressed by Shanley, and I'm also excited that US News World Report wants to work with the Pharmacy Podcast Network.
You're really making your way.
Heck yeah, I am. I'm out here
You used to be
fighting.
sponsored by the Brownsville Gazette.
I'm fighting.
Now you're US News World Report. I mean, who's next for you? Can you get on TMZ?
Eventually,
Listen, we should do pharmacy
TMZ and just do rumors.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Listen, no, we'll just go to
Do you
the
know who
show.
would love to be on that show? Kyle McCormick, because he has all the dirt. He has the dirt on everyone. On all
He's
the
a man.
pharmacists.
Listen, Kyle knows a lot of shit about a lot of things. I can tell you that much right now.
Hey Kyle, come on TMZRX.
Kyle knows
TMZ
TMZ.
RX.
Listen, here's what we'll do. We'll go to all the conferences, and then when everybody's all fucked up, we'll film them all and get like scandal stories.
Scandal stories.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're watching on screen, watching on YouTube, watching on LinkedIn, thanks so much for participating and watching us. Shout out to you. There is if you can see on your screen, there's 2 podcasts I want to give a shout out to. Executive Dose just started. This is with Steve Beckman, who's the CEO of Ural Pharma. That's the company that actually sponsored today's episode. And he's doing Executive Dose, which is talking with CEOs in pharma that are bringing things back to the pharmacist perspective. And I love that because I don't think pharma has given enough back to our pharmacists. And I think that Executive Dose is going to really bridge a much needed gap. And then our second episode, our second podcast, because I'm not going to let you say anything. Our second one is RX Genius, which is talking to investing organizations and big, capital organizations. And I wanted your kind of input on that and what you think of us bringing that kind of intelligence to the network.
Man, Todd, I'll tell you what, you're really staying ahead of the game. Look, they always say, you hear this this cliche line all the time, follow the money. Well, there is some big money in pharmacy, and even for guys, like independent level. You've got big independent stores. You're worth a lot of money. I mean, private equity. If is that what that is? Is that like kind of private equity-ish people?
Yes.
I mean, I know you were at Assembia. I've never gone. I tease about going every year, and then if for some reason or another I end up not going. But I mean, there are so many ballers at Assembia.
Oh, I love it.
And that's certainly operators of specialty stores or specialty pharmacies, because they had the forefront years ago to say, I'm going to start a specialty pharmacy because that's where the future is. And guess where the future is? Specialty pharmacy. So
a shout out to Mark Cuban, who doesn't think that there's a difference between community pharmacy and specialty pharmacy. And by the way, McCormick, Dr. McCormick is in the same camp where he is
Oh,
anti-specialty pharmacy.
Those
But
guys
listen,
get it. Those guys get it. But those guys get it. But listen, there's pros and cons. You go back to your silos, right? I'm going to bring you back to the silo conversation. So those guys have absolutely figured out the secret to helping cost in pharmacy.
Yeah.
But they're only helping the pharmacy bucket.
Mhm.
And that's great. It's awesome. But think about this. If I get a cancer drug from Kyle, because, you know, again, my insurance is going to charge me $2,000 and Kyle can give it to me for $50.
true.
Right?
Yeah.
Of course I'm going to get it from Kyle. But guess what? Now, my pharmacy, where I get all my other drugs from, has no idea that I'm taking that drug.
True. Yeah.
So, you know, there's no sharing of the data there. So you can argue that that's up to the people to share. I agree to some extent. But as far as plugging in, you know, care, like the, you know, health care for a person, how can a pharmacy treat the patient if I don't even know what they're taking?
True.
And so if that person goes, you know, you get into the whole polypharmacy model. So that's a scary thought. You can, Kyle will probably argue that or have solutions that, you know, it's a risk reward thing. I'm not saying it's not.
But for his island of patients,
Yes.
they're cared for. Like they're good. They're okay.
I don't
But-
disagree.
And Mark Cuban saying that there's not a true specialty pharmacy model, which is incorrect. There's a balance between the two of them are talking about the bastardizing of specialty pharmacy just because the PBMs want more money, not because the actual actions between a pharmacist, a physician, and a patient that has hyperlipidemia, and you're taking a medicine, the blibinabs, there's so many nabs, there's like 6 nabs. You have to transition from one to the next, and one to the next,
I don't
and one
know
to
what
the
a
next.
NAB is.
There's a whole bunch of medications out there with the word nab in them. But anyway, so what I'm saying is specialty pharmacy and specialty pharmacists, like NASP certification to become a specialty pharmacist, that's more than just a PBM trick. There's real things that are happening in specialty pharmacy disease state management that take a specialty pharmacist that dials into HIV or cancer or some very unique situation that they have so much experience in, patient after patient after patient, understanding titration up, titration down, supplements, what's going to make you feel better, are you depressed? Like, I think there's a whole management of a disease state that we should be making money on that has nothing to do with the dispensing fee. It has to do with the intelligence of a pharmacist who has experience in fill in the blank, HIV or Hep C or whatever it is.
By the way, let's not roll out Brandon Antonopoulos.
I love
Forward RX out there.
You gotta have
who's in the same
Brandon, you
space.
got to come
I
down.
mean, these guys are, you know, they're definitely trendsetters.
Absolutely.
I want to be very clear. I'm not pushing back on their model.
Not at all.
I
want
just
to go
telling
in.
you that, yeah, I like their model.
Yes,
You know, I mean, they're super smart.
they are.
Kyle's a lot taller, and I don't want to get in a fight with Kyle because he get hit
I look
5
straight.
times before
When
I
I
get anywhere near.
stand
But I'm just saying the
beside
only
him, I
flaw.
look straight.
This is the only flaw that I see. And, you know, I'm only bringing it up because I'm starting drinking bourbon already. Is there's just no, like, nobody knows they're sharing. There's no sharing of that data. So if I'm filling somebody's prescriptions and they're getting 1 or 2 or 3 drugs from Kyle from a cost perspective, but they're on a couple brand name drugs and he doesn't fill them, do I really know that I don't know what that patient's on. So when I fill a prescription, there's no computer doing a DUR. There's no drug utilization review getting done because I don't have access to all the drugs.
True.
So I'm saying that is a potential flaw that maybe they could address. Maybe there can be a dump of their data into some DUR profile. So if I fill Lantus for somebody, if I fill Lantus insulin for somebody, I know that they're on a chemo drug that they're getting from Kyle.
Yep.
You know, today I don't know that.
Yep.
So I could give misguided information by not having all the data. And that's all I'm saying with the potential flaw in that system. I'm certainly not criticizing their model.
No,
It's timely.
absolutely not.
It works.
Cash base
It
is
hits
awesome.
people right where it's at. It saves, you know, from a cash perspective, it's saving
It is.
people gobs of money.
And it's saving
Gobs.
their business. They're building their business.
I mean, there are drugs that you get a copay of $1,000 and Kyle sells it for $50. I mean, I'm not saying you cannot not do that for the good of the system. I wouldn't expect anybody to take it on the chin for that.
Sure.
But I'm just pointing out the like the concern the one concern that I see, and that's frankly only the one that I really have in that space. Everything else is for it.
Yeah.
I'm just sharing because then Kyle will call me on the way home. Douchebag. Anyway.
No, I was just saying that Mark Cuban and Kyle are in the same camp where they're saying there's no such thing as specialty pharmacy, and I'm arguing that in fact there absolutely is. But that doesn't negate what they're doing. They're rock stars, both of them.
Of course, no,
I love what Cuban's doing, and I absolutely love with Mark with what Dr. McCormick's doing. And actually, I think he was doing it way before
Kyle was
Cuban.
way ahead of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
The Cube stole his idea.
He invented it back when he was a student.
Yeah,
So
the Cube stole his idea.
I want to say thank you to Dr. Helena for making a comment on our stream today. Dr. Helena, you are a champion. Keep at it as a pharmacist. I know it's hard out there. I'm not sure what sector of pharmacy that you're in, but thank you so much for chiming in to TWIRx.
I like LinkedIn. I'm glad LinkedIn. I'm glad whoever created it.
I love LinkedIn.
I do like LinkedIn. It is getting it's starting to get a little bit Facebooky, but in general, it's still not.
I actually had an argument about that with a partner of ours, which is out of London, that does Pharmacist Diaries.
Cheerio, mate.
Cheerio, mate. But they do an amazing job. They're a husband-wife team. Anisha Patel, she does Pharmacist Diaries. And she and her husband put out some of the most amazing content. And he and I were kind of arguing, should we be sharing more of like, here's my vacation and my kids and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, we should be sticking to business. Like LinkedIn should be
I
business.
agree.
I think
Facebook is for the pictures.
Exactly. So I'm going to stay with that opinion.
Yeah, for now.
For
You
that.
reserve the right to change it later.
Exactly.
How about if I get you fucked up enough, you can turn around and say, we'll put our picture on Facebook and I'll throw it up in the backyard before we leave here.
Actually, the truth is, if it made me enough money to do other things I want to do, I would do whatever it took to go on LinkedIn. So
yeah, I like LinkedIn now. I mean, I find I meet a lot of good contacts there, and I appreciate it. I always try. I'm one of those guys that maybe because I feel bad, I always try to address people, when they reach out, like even if they're selling me something, I'm like, hey, I appreciate your reach out. I'm not interested today. Maybe feel free to call me in 6 months. I might be in a different spot, but as opposed to just ignoring them or saying leave me alone, or I try to be.
Here's my
inclusive.
LinkedIn. Here's my LinkedIn feed right now, and there is a ton of AI impacting LinkedIn.
You guys are PBM bashers on your LinkedIn thing. I see a lot of PBM bashing going on.
Some of the LinkedIn. There's an.
I follow you.
Action.
I just don't quote on everything because you put out too many posts every day. You should cut back a post or two.
You think?
I'm my Lord.
I'm trying to help my
My
clients
phone
stay out
dings
there.
all day long. It's you.
But we got Lonnie Duog, Dr. Lanny, who's talking about call to action with Rite Aid's closings and bankruptcy, shuttering 1,200 stores. We got Pittsburgh-based Dr. Christina Fontana, the transformational business coach, pharmacist. You still keep my client, Cardinal Health. A shout out to Cardinal Health for what they're doing in gene cell therapy. I love LinkedIn. I
agree. It's a great platform.
Absolutely love LinkedIn.
It's a great platform. I've learned a lot. Found a lot of clients, friends, customers. I almost always, and I think a lot of people do this, right? Like if I meet somebody at dinner or a conference, I at one point or another go home and like immediately, there I am on my phone again. Where's Link? Where is she at? How do you spell her name? Where are they at?
And you know what? I have respect that people that invest in LinkedIn and give testimony and insights, and it gives me more about them as a business person.
Well, you're very broad. Like I need to know how to do a core at home business. You need to know every aspect. You need to do at home. You need to know traditional long-term care. You need to know retail.
Specialty.
You need to know manufacturing.
Sure.
You need to know specialty. You need to know, wholesaling. Like your clients are everybody. So you have to learn a lot more than me. I'm not that bright. I have so much that I can keep in my noggin.
Speaking of LinkedIn, I want to give a shout out to Sykes & Company, who's one of our clients. We're very proud of them. They're a leading accounting firm. They are showing up at Connect 2025. I can't believe you're not at Connect. Why aren't you there? Isn't that
I'll tell you
pioneer?
offline. No, it is. Listen, here. This is very egotistical of me, but sometimes like all these conferences, like we're lucky at Acor that I have such a tremendous team at Acor that they keep me ahead of stuff that sometimes when you go to these conferences, like there's really nothing for us there. My team keeps me so far ahead of what's going on. We're very relevant. We're very relevant with what's going on. But my team keeps me there, man. I mean, my team is tremendous. Shout out to the Acor team. But so when we go there, it's kind of like let's say they're not cheap to go there, and then you gotta if I'm gonna bring 2 people down, then I'm gonna let them bring their husband down there, and then they're gonna it's true 2 people for a week at a hotel. You got to pay for the conference. You got to buy some dinners. And it's what are we really learning? What are our takeaways? Is there a takeaway there for us? Pioneer is great. Well, I mean, we totally love Pioneer, but we just I don't know. I feel like the conferences, and this is true like NCPA, the same. They're catering to the average guy. Maybe I'm not.
And not the advanced.
Maybe I'm
not the advanced.
They need like a super user conference.
We've talked about that,
right?
So I've talked to Josh.
And some people try to do that. Like I know some people do. The problem is then you get into who's a super user, who's not, right? Lisa Fast has her thing going.
Yes.
I mean, she has some people down there. She has some people in her group. I just haven't found or seen the network that that I would define.
There isn't one.
The super user
So,
group.
all right, I'm hard on my industry because I believe in my industry. I live and breathe this. You know that. There is not a new marketing strategy event or company that is taking the place of PDS to push things to the fringe. I love fringe. I want to be on the fringe of what's next, right? And PDS was the closest thing. Pharmacy Development Services.
PDS, yeah, they did a good job.
They did a good job at fringing. Now, from a scale from 1 to 100, I think they were sitting at a strong 75% of what was on the edge of the future of pharmacy and marketing and stuff. There are 0 organizations that are doing that at a mass scale. DiversifyRx is very close to doing that, but it's it's a smaller group. It's only 200, 300 pharmacies.
That's great for her, right? That manages her because now that's personal.
But I want a big ass group. I want the biggest.
Yeah, but there's not that many super users.
You don't think?
That's what you have to be careful.
Out of 16,000 independent community pharmacies, we can't find 1,600 to show up at a conference. 10%.
So you want to know the truth? No.
Oh, I know.
And here's why: pharmacists are lame as a profession. My friends aren't, so I'm not talking about you guys. But it's a struggle. I mean, these conferences
they're too comfortable, or they're just like nerdy and they're not into the next phase.
I think there's there's a group of pharmacists, and this is not my friend. My friends are all movers and shakers. So I'm not talking about you guys, but there are a lot of pharmacists that just are kind of doing the minimum to get by, right? Which is why there's a lot of them that are going out of business. If the movers and shakers are still in business. If you're still in business today in pharmacy, I would put you in the mover and shaker category. So to your point, there might be 16,000 movers and shakers out there. Yeah. But to try to get them to go to a conference all these conferences are all dwindling in is it because of content? Is it because of
it's because the PBMs have crushed
I think there's so many guys that they're afraid to get out behind the counter. They don't know how to do that. There's too many people still in our industry that want to make money filling the prescriptions
and not do anything. Yeah.
And there's still windows or pockets where that can happen. It's going to get harder and harder and harder, and inevitably that won't happen. But there's still too many, and that's part of the delay of the evolution of pharmacy. Is there's too many people, and I'm not saying, listen, again, this is I keep saying, I keep giving the other side of the story. I'm not saying we don't need giving somebody a drug and giving them a couple minutes spiel on the importance of that medication and managing it and counseling them and storing the drug and buying them. I mean, I'm not saying we should not make money dispensing drugs.
True.
But it's we're better off with the all-encompassing helping the healthcare of the patient, right? Not just here's your drug, take it once a day. It might make you sick. It might do this. It might do that. If not, here, see you in a month. that's halfway. That's not even halfway to what we need to do for our patients, right? It has to be, did you get your vaccine? When's the last time did you get your vaccine? Did you, what other, obviously, the gist of the basic pharmacy, what other drugs have you taken? Going back to that conversation, there's too many people that are still stuck in that. You're not willing to get out. It's that proverbial, they stand behind their counter and fill prescriptions, but you get a pharmacist from out behind the counter and they're a nervous wreck because they don't know what to do when they get out there. Okay. So that's where I think pharmacy and pharmacists have to get better. If you're a young person looking for a pharmacy, you have to be willing to do that.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm excited. So I get to be part of the very first Sure Cost Insights event, which is going to be taking place in November. And Sure Cost has been around for a long time. I remember when I came into pharmacy through SoftWriters, long-term care pharmacy software. Sure Cost was one of the first APIs that we developed between our system and theirs. And they kind of give you all this analytic data. And they have asked me to be part of that event in November. Have you heard of Sure Cost?
So I'm familiar. I mean, today I'm a value drug guy. I kind of, drink the value drug Kool-Aid. And it's hard to get me to drink Kool-Aid. And I have not. But value drug does a nice job. When it comes down to wholesaling for me, I feel like, and this is from my friend Greg Drew, who he's retired now.
Yeah.
He was the CEO of Value Drug.
And he's amazing. He's a rock star.
And he used to tell me all the time, hey man, like at the end of the day, there's only so much money to go around in these things. If you think you're getting a good deal from a wholesaler, you really need to dive into that because you're probably not getting the deal that you think you're getting because they're all buying the drug for the same price. So how much can basically, he used to use the analogy of a balloon, like one of those long skinny balloons. He said you can squeeze it over here, you can squeeze it over here, but however, there's only so much air in the balloon.
That's true.
And the air in the balloon is
the analogy.
right. If you want to switch to a wholesale and they're like, oh, I'm going to give you $500,000, I want you to switch. Well, you can be damn well sure they're going to make that $500,000 up in their drug cost to you. Right? So maybe they're helping you here, maybe if you need it, but at the end of the day, you're not getting $500,000 for free. So point being, pound for pound, if you put, if I bought drugs, if I ran 3 shadow pharmacies from, Cardinal, McKesson, and Value Drug, at the end of the year, they're all going to be within, a couple dollars of each other's net cost come the end of the year. But the Sure Cost model then becomes unique because they don't play primary wholesale, primary deal, whatever. They're like, hey, this is the cheapest across the board. So I do like the concept, but for now I like Value Drug better. Sorry, Sure Cost, but I'm just a Value Drug guy.
No,
the new guy, Rick does a great job out there now. Rick Sykes, so he's the new CEO. They're doing they do a nice job.
Absolutely. I love that.
We should probably get Rick on here.
John DeJames is a
John DeJames
John DeJames.
DJ
John DeJames on TWIRx. Like we have to have John DeJames and you come.
We should have a party. He'll come on DJ. He's a DJ on
Wait.
weekends. He's kind of retired, but he does DJ.
I'm going to share with if you're watching on YouTube, you're going to see what's about to happen. We got a party ability.
We're going to party like it's
We
1999.
can party now. Look at that. Now we can party. We should get some.
We should look acid.
Whatever. I mean, whatever it takes. What's the pharmacist say about that?
I would
gotta
think
give us our drug interaction.
Don't you had those guys on there? What's that kid from Pitt that used to do the he was into the mushroom company or whatever. I can't think of it. Saeed?
No, I'm not sure. But we have a psychotropic podcast that's going to be focused in on those.
Aaron, you can get Aaron Rodgers on there.
Aaron
Rodgers come back. Now, he's stealing us, so we got that going for us.
We got Pittsburgh, so
we got that going for us.
You can fly him in.
Aaron, I don't think he's coming to Brownsville. I don't know how to break it.
How do you know? My next studio is going to be Fort Lauderdale. That's where my next studio is Fort Lauderdale. And you have a place down in Florida.
I'm on the other side of Florida, but I can come to Fort Lauderdale if you're there.
You ever team up with Shahada Chowdhury from Palms Pharmacy in Tampa?
doesn't
You
really.
guys need to.
No, but he's on campus not far from me. He was like, no, but he's on campus not far from me. He was like, an hour and a half, but it's not far. Yeah, I should check that out.
I appreciate you coming down here and spending time with us on this week.
Hey man, I love it. First guy, new studio.
First guy
New
on
studio
this week in
rocks. New
pharmacy.
studio rocks. 2 thumbs up to the new studio.
Yeah. It's time, and the coloring's good. If I can get this freaking sign to work again, the color's even better.
Cheapskate.
No, this is an expensive kind from Cincinnati. This thing was $2,400. It was expensive.
Well, it doesn't work.
And now it doesn't.
If you'd have paid $2,500, it would have worked.
It's been 4 years. So I don't know what happened with that boom of electricity that hit our
Shout out
house.
to Joyce's Jewelers. I'm going up there to get my wife a
Joyce's
gift. So give me like a discount because I'm shouting out to Joyce's Jewelers, Uniontown.
It's
Heading
so
up there
funny.
for my wife's anniversary gift. So if somebody can give me a discount up there, I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's funny that Joyce's Jewelers out of Uniontown has no context to the nation of This Week in Pharmacy, but
Nothing.
nothing.
Other than I'm looking for
Just
a
in
discount
case.
when I go there to buy my wife's gift.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, we appreciate you as the listener listening to This Week in Pharmacy.
Please don't shout
Special.
Kyle. Don't call and yell at me.
Yeah, please, Kyle, we want you to be down here. We love you. We support you. This was This Week in Pharmacy. This was TWIRx, June 6, 2025. We appreciate you all. And get ready for next week's TWIRx. We'll be back. Thank you, Sean, for coming down.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. See you.